The light rain fell steadily that night, turning the dirt road into a dark, muddy path. The cold wind howled through the trees surrounding the small cabin, making the wooden boards of the porch creak under its force. Beneath the dim glow of the porch light, a dog sat motionless, his eyes locked on the empty road. He didn't move, didn't seek shelter, he only waited. His name was Maverick, a German shepherd that was once the pride of the police force, a hero on the field. Now he was just a shadow of what he used to be, consumed by loneliness and abandonment. Across town, Noah Callahan gripped a glass of whiskey without taking a sip. His eyes were bloodshot, staring blankly at the wall. Beside him, on an old wooden table, lay a worn-out police badge and an aged leather collar. His fingers traced the metal name tag attached to it, feeling the weight of guilt in his chest. The name engraved on it was the same one that haunted his thoughts every night. Maverick. 2 years ago, Noah and Maverick were inseparable. Partners in the K-9 unit, they had chased down criminals, rescued hostages, and faced death side by side. Maverick had saved Noah's life more times than he could count. But everything fell apart in a single night. One bullet, one mistake, a fear Noah never knew how to face. And in his weakness, he made the worst decision of his life. He abandoned his best friend. Maverick never understood why his owner never came back. Day after day, he remained on that porch, waiting. He refused to leave, refused to accept the reality the world was forcing upon him. Every time a car passed by on the road, his ears perked up, his tail twitched slightly. But just like the 1,000 times before, no one stopped. And with each passing day, his hope grew weaker. Noah shut his eyes, trying to block out the memory of that night. He had tried to move on. He told himself Maverick would be better off without him, that another family would take him in, that maybe it was the right thing to do. But it was all a lie. Now, sitting there with an untouched drink and a hollow ache in his chest, he knew the truth. He had made an unforgivable mistake, and if there was still time, he had to make it right. Outside the cabin, Maverick felt something different that night. A familiar scent carried by the wind. His heart pounded. He lifted his head, ears pointed toward the road. Could it be? After all this time, was he finally coming back? Maverick didn't know, but just in case, he kept waiting. Noah's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he drove down the dark, winding road. The rain had stopped, but the mist clung to the air, making the headlights barely cut through the night. His chest felt heavy, his pulse unsteady. Every mile he drove, the weight of his guilt pressed harder against him. Would Maverick still be there? Would he even recognize him after all this time? The thought of those deep, trusting eyes now filled with resentment made his stomach turn. His mind drifted back to that night, the night he left him. It had been after a mission gone wrong, one that still haunted his dreams. They had been chasing an armed suspect through an alleyway when the gunfire erupted. Maverick lunged first, knocking the man down, but not before a shot rang out. Noah had thought the bullet hit Maverick. For those few agonizing seconds, he believed his partner was dead. But when he checked, the blood on his hands wasn't Maverick's. It was his own. The bullet had grazed his side, and Maverick had saved him once again. But something inside him had broken that night. The fear, the guilt, the overwhelming sense of responsibility. It all became too much. The next morning, without looking back, he left Maverick in that cabin, telling himself it was for the best. He convinced himself that Maverick would move on, find another home, another family. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't protecting Maverick. He was running away. Now, the road ahead was leading him straight into the past he had tried so hard to forget. He slowed down as he approached the familiar turn, his heart hammering against his ribs. The old wooden sign for the cabin was barely visible, worn by years of neglect. He pulled onto the gravel driveway, his headlights illuminating the front porch. And then he saw him. Maverick was still there, still waiting. His fur was unkempt, his body leaner than before, but his eyes were the same. Deep pools of amber that once held unwavering trust now carried something else. Something Noah wasn't ready to face. The dog lifted his head slightly, ears twitching. For a brief moment, there was silence. Noah stepped out of the car, his throat tight. "Maverick!" His voice cracked, barely louder than a whisper. The dog didn't move, didn't run to him, didn't wag his tail. He only stared. And in that silence, Noah realized he had waited, but he had never forgotten. For the first time in 2 years, Noah stood just a few feet away from Maverick, yet the distance between them felt immeasurable. The dog didn't leap toward him, didn't bark or whimper. He only watched. His body was tense, his ears twitching at every movement Noah made, as if unsure whether to trust or retreat. The silence between them was deafening, filled with memories that neither of them could erase. Noah took a slow step forward, his boots crunching against the damp gravel. "Maverick!" He tried again, his voice hoarse. He extended his hand slightly, hoping, praying, that something in the dog still remembered him. Maverick's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Hurt? Recognition? Hesitation? For a brief second, his tail moved just an inch, but then, just as quickly, it stilled. His posture remained rigid, uncertain. The weight of Noah's guilt threatened to crush him. He had imagined this moment so many times. Running back, calling Maverick's name, the dog jumping into his arms like nothing had ever happened. But this wasn't a fairy tale. Time had passed, and time, Noah realized, didn't heal all wounds. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice barely audible. His hands clenched into fists as regret burned in his chest. He had spent 2 years running from this pain, from this moment, and now that he was here, he didn't know if he deserved forgiveness. Maverick lowered his head slightly, his ears flattening, but still, he didn't move closer. The trust they had built, the bond they once shared, was broken, and it was Noah's fault. His breathing grew unsteady as he knelt on the wet ground, no longer caring about the cold seeping through his jeans. "I should have never left you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought you'd be better off without me." His hands trembled as he ran them through his hair, frustration and self-loathing battling inside him. For the first time since Noah arrived, Maverick let out a low, quiet whine. It was barely audible, but it struck Noah harder than any words ever could. He had waited, through the rain, through the cold, through the loneliness. He had waited, but he had suffered, and Noah had been the reason for that suffering. A lump formed in Noah's throat as he finally looked into Maverick's eyes. Not just at him, but into him. And for the first time, he understood. Forgiveness wouldn't come easily. He had to earn it. Noah sat on the damp ground, feeling the weight of Maverick's stare pressing against him like an unspoken judgment. The dog didn't move, didn't inch closer. He was waiting, but this time not for Noah to return. He was waiting for proof. Proof that Noah wasn't just another ghost from the past. Another broken promise that would disappear with the sunrise. The thought made Noah's chest tighten. He had spent 2 years running, but now he realized something terrifying. Coming back wasn't enough. He took a slow breath and reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out the old, worn leather leash, the same one Maverick had worn on their last assignment together. He placed it gently on the ground between them, a silent offering. Maverick's eyes flicked to it, ears perking slightly, but he didn't move. He remembered. Noah could see it in the way his body tensed, the way his tail twitched just slightly, like a reflex buried beneath layers of doubt. "I know I don't deserve it," Noah said, his voice quieter now, more honest. "But I want to make this right." He let his hands fall to his sides, showing he had nothing left to hide. No commands, no expectations, just truth. Maverick had spent years following Noah's orders without hesitation, trusting him with his life. Now it was Noah's turn to wait, to let Maverick decide whether or not he was still worth trusting. Minutes passed in silence. The night air was cool against Noah's skin, but the tension between them felt heavier than any storm. And then, finally, Maverick moved. It was small at first, a hesitant step forward, then another. His nose twitched as he sniffed the leash on the ground, his eyes flickering between it and Noah's face. His expression was unreadable, but Noah felt his breath hitch in his throat. This was the first step. Maverick didn't jump into his arms. He didn't wag his tail with joy, but he didn't turn away either. He stood there, close enough that Noah could feel his warmth but distant enough to remind him that trust was fragile. Noah swallowed hard, resisting the urge to reach out. This wasn't about rushing things. It was about rebuilding. For the first time that night, Noah felt a flicker of something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Hope. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the damp earth. Noah hadn't slept. He had spent the night sitting on the porch watching Maverick, who lay a few feet away. His body curled but his ears still alert. They were close but not close enough. The silence between them was no longer filled with anger. It was something else now. Caution, uncertainty, a fragile bridge between the past and what could be their future. Noah slowly stood, stretching his sore muscles. Maverick lifted his head slightly but didn't move otherwise. "Come on, boy," Noah murmured, taking a step toward the truck. He didn't expect Maverick to follow him right away, and he didn't. Instead, the dog just watched, his eyes calculating. He was measuring Noah's actions, waiting to see if this time would be different. Noah walked to the back of the truck and opened the tailgate, pulling out a bag of dog food and a bowl. He filled it carefully, setting it down on the ground near the steps. Maverick's nose twitched at the familiar scent, but he didn't get up immediately. There had been food before, but never Noah. It was as if Maverick feared that if he accepted this offering, it would all disappear again. "I'll wait," Noah said softly, lowering himself to the steps, giving Maverick space. It had to be his choice. Minutes passed, but finally, Maverick pushed himself up and walked forward. His steps were slow, deliberate. When he reached the bowl, he hesitated for a brief moment before finally lowering his head to eat. Noah let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was trust in its smallest form. The fact that Maverick was willing to take something from him again, after all this time, meant something. Maybe he was starting to believe that Noah wasn't going to leave this time. Maybe he was ready to test Noah, just as Noah was ready to prove himself. As Maverick ate, Noah sat quietly, watching. He wouldn't rush this. He had broken their bond once. He wouldn't risk doing it again. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. Noah remained seated on the porch steps, his hands resting on his knees as he watched Maverick finish his meal. The dog ate cautiously, as if still unsure whether this moment was real. Noah could see it, the hesitation in every movement, the way Maverick kept glancing up, as if expecting everything to disappear the second he let his guard down. It broke Noah's heart, but he understood. Trust wasn't given. It was earned. After finishing, Maverick took a slow step back, licking his muzzle before sitting down at a safe distance. He wasn't avoiding Noah, but he wasn't fully comfortable yet either. The unspoken question lingered between them. What now? Noah took a deep breath and reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out something small, something that had been with him for years. It was an old, worn-out tennis ball, their favorite training tool from when they were partners. Noah turned it over in his hand before rolling it gently across the porch. The ball stopped just in front of Maverick's paws. A test. A choice. Maverick's ears perked, his eyes locked onto the familiar object. For a long moment he simply stared. Noah held his breath, waiting. Would he ignore it? Would he walk away? Or would something deep inside him remember? Then, slowly, Maverick leaned forward and sniffed the ball. His tail gave a slight, uncertain wag, small, barely noticeable, but enough for Noah to feel a flicker of hope. Then, with deliberate caution, Maverick picked up the ball between his teeth. It wasn't just a toy. It was a piece of their past, a symbol of the bond they once shared. And in that moment, it became something else, an invitation. Noah's throat tightened as he smiled softly. "Good boy," he whispered. Maverick didn't rush to him, didn't drop the ball at his feet like he used to, but he didn't walk away either. Instead, he simply held it, standing there as if deciding what came next. And for the first time, Noah realized something important. This wasn't just about Maverick trusting him again. It was about him proving, every single day, that he was never leaving again. With the ball still in his mouth, Maverick took one slow step forward. The past was still there, the pain still lingered, but for the first time, so did the possibility of moving forward. Maverick stood still, the worn-out tennis ball gripped gently between his teeth. His amber eyes locked onto Noah's, studying him, searching for something, reassurance, maybe, or proof that this time would be different. The air between them was heavy with unspoken words, with years of distance and regret. But something had shifted. The fact that Maverick had accepted the ball, had taken even a single step forward, meant more than Noah could put into words. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the start of something fragile. Noah exhaled slowly, careful not to move too fast, not to break the delicate moment between them. He reached out, not to take the ball, not to force anything, but simply to be present. His hand hovered near his knee, palm open, inviting but not demanding. Maverick had to come to him on his own terms. For the first time, Noah understood that. He had spent so long making decisions for both of them, assuming he knew what was best. But now it wasn't about what he wanted. It was about what Maverick needed. The dog's ears twitched slightly, his tail giving the smallest wag, hesitant, unsure, but real. Then, slowly, he took another step forward. It wasn't much, just a few inches, but Noah felt the weight of it. It was trust, rebuilding itself one cautious movement at a time. His chest tightened as he fought the urge to reach out, to pull Maverick into his arms the way he used to. But he didn't. Instead, he let the silence speak for them, let the moment be what it was, a step in the right direction. Minutes passed before Maverick finally lowered the ball at Noah's feet. Not as a game, not as a command to throw it, but as something else entirely. A silent promise. He still wasn't ready to fully let go of the past, but he was willing to try. And for Noah, that was everything. Swallowing the lump in his throat, Noah picked up the ball slowly, rolling it between his fingers. He didn't throw it, didn't break the quiet understanding between them. Instead, he nodded once, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm here, buddy. I'm not going anywhere." Maverick didn't move at first, but then, a single cautious wag of his tail. It wasn't much, but it was enough. They weren't where they used to be, but maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back. The early morning mist lingered over the trees, curling around the wooden porch like a ghost refusing to let go. Noah sat cross-legged on the steps, elbows resting on his knees, turning the worn-out tennis ball over in his hands. The weight of it felt heavier than before, as if it carried every mistake he had made, every moment he had let Maverick down. The dog sat a few feet away, his body still, his eyes locked onto Noah, watching, waiting. Noah cleared his throat, the words he wanted to say trapped somewhere deep inside him. How could he explain everything? How could he tell Maverick that leaving him behind had never been about abandoning him, but about running from himself? About the nightmares that had haunted him every night since that mission gone wrong? About the way he had convinced himself that Maverick would be better off without him? But none of that mattered now. Excuses wouldn't erase the past. All that mattered was proving, every single day, that he wouldn't make the same mistake again. With a deep breath, Noah set the ball down between them, gently pushing it forward until it stopped just in front of Maverick's paws. A test, not of obedience, not of commands, but of trust. Maverick stared at it for a long moment, his ears flicking back slightly, as if weighing his options. The old Maverick, the one who had once leapt into action at the slightest cue from Noah, would have snatched the ball instantly, waiting for the next command. But this Maverick had been hurt. He had learned the hard way that trust could be broken, that loyalty wasn't always returned. Noah didn't rush him. He simply sat there, letting Maverick decide what came next. He had made the mistake of forcing things before, of assuming he knew what was best. This time, he would wait. Even if it took days, weeks, months, he would wait because that's what Maverick had done for him. And then, slowly, Maverick leaned forward. He sniffed the ball once, then carefully picked it up between his teeth. He didn't drop it at Noah's feet like before. Instead, he held it for a moment, then stepped closer. Just a single step, but one that meant everything. Noah felt his throat tighten, his breath catching in his chest. It wasn't just about the ball. It was about the choice Maverick was making. A choice to try. A choice to trust, even if just a little. Noah let out a slow, steady breath, his voice barely above a whisper. Good boy. He didn't reach out, didn't push for more. He just sat there, feeling the weight of the moment settle over them like the morning mist. This wasn't the end of their journey. It wasn't a perfect fix, but it was something real. And for the first time in years, Noah felt like maybe, just maybe, he had a chance to make things right. The sky had begun its slow transformation, shifting from the pale grays of early morning to the golden hues of an approaching afternoon. The air was still cool, but the dampness from the previous night's rain was finally fading. Noah remained seated on the wooden porch steps, his legs stretched out, arms resting loosely over his knees. He was exhausted, not from lack of sleep, but from the emotional weight of the past 24 hours. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from his mistakes. He was facing them one moment at a time, and Maverick, standing just a few feet away, was watching him carefully, as if trying to decide whether this new version of Noah was someone he could trust again. Noah shifted slightly, his fingers absent-mindedly rolling the worn-out tennis ball over his palm. It was strange how something so small could carry so much meaning. This ball had once been a simple tool for training, a game, a routine they had repeated 1,000 times. Now it was something else entirely. A test, a symbol, a bridge between the life they had and the life they might still rebuild. He looked up at Maverick, whose amber eyes were locked onto the ball with quiet intensity. He wasn't the same dog Noah had left behind. He was older now, wiser in ways that only loss and heartbreak could teach. And yet, there was still something familiar in the way he stood, poised, alert, waiting. All right, buddy? Noah murmured, his voice low and steady. One more time. He didn't throw the ball, not yet. Instead, he held it up between them, watching for Maverick's reaction. The dog's ears twitched slightly, his body tensed just a little, as if debating whether to engage. Noah knew that this wasn't just about playing fetch. This was about rebuilding trust, one action at a time. It was about proving to Maverick that he wouldn't walk away again, that he was here, fully present, for as long as it took. With a slow, deliberate motion, Noah finally tossed the ball, a gentle throw, landing just a few feet away in the damp grass. He held his breath as Maverick hesitated, staring at the ball as if weighing its significance. Would he chase after it? Would he ignore it? Or would he walk away entirely, choosing to leave the past behind? Seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. Then, in a movement so small that it was almost imperceptible, Maverick took a single step forward. Then another. His tail gave the faintest wag. Not full excitement, not yet, but something close. And then, finally, he moved. Noah's chest tightened as Maverick reached the ball, lowering his head to pick it up between his teeth. He didn't immediately return, didn't rush back like he once had, eager for another throw. Instead, he stood there, ball in his mouth, staring at Noah as if making sure this wasn't a dream. Noah didn't call him, didn't demand. He just waited. And then, slowly but surely, Maverick trotted back toward him. He dropped the ball. Not directly at Noah's feet, but close enough. Close enough to say, in the only way he could, that he was willing to try. Noah exhaled, feeling his shoulders relax for the first time in what felt like years. He reached down and picked up the ball again, this time holding it loosely, not as a test but as a simple object. Just a ball, just a game, just a step forward. Good boy, he said softly. And this time, when Maverick's tail gave a slow, cautious wag, it felt just a little bit stronger than before. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the grass as a gentle breeze rustled the trees. Noah sat on the porch steps, his body relaxed in a way it hadn't been in years. Maverick lay beside him, stretched out, his head resting on his paws. For the first time since Noah had returned, the silence between them no longer felt heavy. It was no longer filled with unspoken pain, regret, or hesitation. Instead, it was something quieter, something close to peace. Noah reached over, his hand hovering just above Maverick's head, waiting for a reaction. The dog's ears twitched slightly, but this time, he didn't pull away. Instead, he let out a soft sigh, and that was all the permission Noah needed. His fingers gently ran through Maverick's fur, feeling the familiar warmth of the partner he had once thought he'd lost forever. This wasn't just a moment, it was a choice. A choice to trust again. A choice to forgive even if it would take time. "I missed you, buddy," Noah murmured, his voice thick with emotion. Maverick didn't move at first, but then, in a motion so subtle yet so powerful, he leaned into Noah's touch. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't sudden, but it meant everything. Noah closed his eyes for a second, letting the weight of it sink in. He had spent years running from his mistakes, but now, for the first time, he was exactly where he was meant to be. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with streaks of orange and deep blue. Noah let out a small chuckle, shaking his head. "Guess we've got a lot to figure out, huh?" Maverick lifted his head slightly, his amber eyes meeting Noah's. There was no resentment there anymore, just understanding. A quiet acknowledgement that while the past could never be erased, the future was still theirs to build. Noah stood, stretching his stiff muscles. "Come on, let's go inside," he said, motioning toward the cabin. For a split second, Maverick hesitated, an old habit from 2 years of waiting, of watching, of never knowing if Noah would walk away again. But this time, when Noah stepped toward the door, Maverick followed. No doubt, no second guessing, just trust. As they crossed the threshold together, Noah felt something settle inside him. This wasn't just about making amends anymore. This was home. And as the door closed behind them, Maverick finally did something he hadn't done in years. He wagged his tail fully, without hesitation.